Good morning, friends.
When push come to shove, the wheels keep rolling. Hustle, we hustle like 8 days.
How are we doing this morning? It's Brekky In The Cave, and what a show we have got on the way.
Tough, get going. When push come to shove.
Kicking off with this one from Bobby Hustle. Brand new music from him. This one, Moving In The Streets. Gonna let you know exactly what we've got going on in around a couple of minutes or so. So yeah, keep it locked. It's Brekky.
Color, blue color, no color. It no matter, everyone still a work for the dollar, yeah. So work smarter when they tell you work harder. When they say you never make it, let that push you even farther, yeah. No, I don't throw no money in no wishing well. Those silly superstitions have never served me well. Still I have faith that time will actually tell. Cause words without works ring hollow like a bell. I wake up before the alarm, ready to go, the engine already won. Yeah, like a machine I perform. Like a machine I perform. When the going get tough, get going. When push come to shove, the wheels keep rolling. Hustle, we hustle like 8 days a week. Gotta keep it humble when we moving in the street. When the going get tough, get going. When push come to shove, the wheels keep rolling. Hustle, we hustle like 8 days a week. Gotta keep it humble when we moving in the street.
Oh yes,
Lockdown.
Loving the sounds of this one from Bobby Hustle.
The silver lining surrounding every dark cloud.
What better way to start the day than with fresh reggae music?
You ain't looking, you won't find it.
That's how we do.
I've been there and I don't wanna go back. No, again. Tough times has to feel the impact. I know the difference between truth and fact. There are terms and conditions when you sign the contract. Yeah, I wake up before the alarm, ready to go, the engine already won. You know I work like a machine I perform. Like a machine I perform. When the going get tough, get going. When push come to shove, the wheels keep rolling. Hustle, we hustle like 8 days a week. Gotta keep it humble when we moving in the street. When the going get tough, get going. When push come to shove, the wheels keep rolling. Hustle, we hustle like 8 days a week. Gotta keep it humble when we moving in the street. When we moving in the street.
Oh, yes, sir. We're going to finish that one up there. Brand new from Bobby Hustle. That one going by the name of Moving In The Streets. Wicked way to start off the show this morning. How are we doing this morning, my friends? It's Brekky In The Cave, live here from The Cave, my fabulous home studio, which I'm loving at the moment. I genuinely am loving. You can see how bright it is outside. We've got the colouring sorted in the room. I'm loving the lighting and bits like that. We're in a good place right now. And I tell you what, you can probably tell, I am full of energy this morning. I don't feel gummed up. I don't feel like I've had a slow wake up. I actually managed to get a solid 7.5 hours sleep. That's very rare for me. And I was up at 7 o'clock this morning. How mad is that? 7 o'clock this morning, and I'm bright and early. I've got most of my stuff done for the day, and I'm in a fantastic mood. It already feels like the afternoon for me. So I'm fully in a hyperactive mode, and I'm really looking forward to this morning's show, because we've got some amazing guests on the way. Really, really excited to get into both of these. So let's talk through who we are going to have on the show today. We're going to be joined by, firstly, Rapture4D, a Scottish grime producer whose sound has expanded extremely over the past sort of couple of years. He's originally started in that sort of very kind of classic grime sound. He's moved on to sort of cover a more wave kind of approach to how he puts things together. Now, that sort of sound has meant that he's been able to set up his new label, which goes by the name of Plasma Abuse. Now, it's been running for a couple of years now, and there's been some amazing releases on there. I'm really, really excited to talk about it, to be honest with you. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about starting up a scene in Scotland, and of course, just what he's got on the way in the future, as we always do here on Cubcam TV. I always try and snag a couple of juicy exclusives from people. As well as that, we're going to be talking to Sharon-Rose, a grime DJ slash producer slash label owner, who is also, coincidentally, a qualified music lawyer who works in that industry full time. So we're going to be talking to her, getting some sort of ground level music industry tips for people. Going to be looking into sort of do's and don'ts when it comes to contract law, and at what points you should seek to get advice on things. So there we go. It's going to be a very enjoyable thing today. I'm really, really looking forward to it. There's some very interesting guests. We're trying to carry on this series of having more sort of artist-driven help sessions on the show as well every now and then. We've obviously had the big social media talk. We've got one coming up to do with branding as well, which is going to be very exciting. There's going to be loads of things that artists can use to kind of help and expand what they're doing through conversations, which is what we like to do here, man. We're obviously working a very kind of a very multi-talented scene. There's lots of different people who are involved in different things. We've got the designers, we've got the kind of promoters, the bookers. Everyone seems to have more than one feather to their cap these days. So we want to use that and get the conversation going. Now, if you are looking in for the first time this morning, please do hit the subscribe button, hit like on the video as well. Every time you hit like, the reach grows and more people can see what's going on, and people can see what you're up to in the morning, because this show is not going anywhere. Let's put it that way. We're going to be continuously streaming throughout the duration of lockdown, and then hopefully when we get back into the Trickstar Radio studio where I normally host my breakfast show, we're going to be able to video stream that as well. So it should be a very enjoyable combination of things going on. So let's get into some of the new music we've got going on the way today. We've got obviously yesterday was the day I received my Juno download review, so there's always some tasty new bits in there, including this one from Bonobo and Andrea Triana. This is an absolutely wicked tune, I've got to say. Really good, nice early morning vibes on this one. We're going to get into it in just a second. As I said before, please do hit the subscribe button. We're live on Cubcam TV. You can always check out these shows afterwards via the Cubcam TV podcast or the Breakfast with KXVU podcast, which you can check out literally by going onto Spotify, SoundCloud, or Apple Music and just searching Breakfast with KXVU, the interviews, and all of them will be on there. There's hundreds on there at this point, so you can use that to fill up some of this lockdown time. So there we go. Let's get into this one then. Bonobo and Andrea Triana. This one exclusive, Eyes Down. Don't go anywhere. It's Cubcam TV and it's Brekky in the Cave. Super smooth, this one. Out to Miss Digest, locking in as per. How are you doing this morning, sir? How's things over in Barca? It's really sunny here today. Man like Miss Digest saying his favourite sandwich shop has just reopened. So man's content. What's in the sandwich though? Because everyone has a favourite sandwich shop, but what's in the favourite sandwich? That's what I want to know. I know you're a foodie as well, bruv. Stunning vibes on this one, I've got to say. excellent sounds on this one. Coming from Bonobo and Andrea Triana. Absolutely fantastic tune, I've got to say. Smooth vibes all the way through here on Brekky in the Cave this morning. As I said before, I've been up for hours already, which is quite rare by the time I normally start my show. I'm normally sort of up and on the show within an hour, normally. But today, you know what? I thought I'd try something a little bit different. Tried to get to bed a little bit earlier yesterday, and it succeeded for once. So I'm full of energy. I'm full of beans today, and I'm really looking forward to what's to come, to be honest with you. We've got loads of stuff on the way, but let's jump into our first bit of news for this morning. We're going to look at this. It's DJ news, so if you're not a DJ, it might not be news for you, but we're going to look at it anyway. So Numark announces 2 new budget controllers, the Mixtrack Platinum FX and the Pro FX. Numark has announced 2 new entry-level controllers, the Pro FX and the 4-channel Platinum FX. The Platinum FX features the abilities to switch control to deck 3 and 4, as well as controlling decks 1 and 2. It also features 6-inch jog wheels with on-jog displays that tell you the time remaining, BPM, platter position, and pitch adjustment. The article I'm reading from actually says the potch adjustment, and I'm assuming that's a typo. But if it's not a typo and there's a thing called potch adjustment, more fool me, because this is news to me, and I've been DJing for 11 years. There are 8 performance pads per channel with 4 modes, including Q, auto loop, sample, and fader cuts, which mimics the scratching across fader techniques. Both controllers also feature dual FX paddles for dialing in different levels of the 6 FX, with dedicated filter knobs for each channel, as well as a 3-band EQ. Sort of everything you would expect from a DJ mix console these days. I don't know if anyone's actually seen these. They look quite swish, to be honest with you. I use literally a Numark controller to do this show, which is quite useful, but they do look quite smooth. I've got to say, they look pretty sweet. Obviously the Pro, I'm assuming on this, is the one that has all of this stuff kind of loaded into it, but they look quite good, to be honest with you. And for entry-level controllers, they're not too expensive, I've got to say. The Pro FX is the same as the Platinum FX, but without the scenes on the jogs. There we are, the Pro is the right one, and is restricted to controlling only 2 channels instead of 4. Round back there is a single USB port, a 1/4-inch mic input, and an RCA master output. Each controller comes with Serato Lite and features Tidal streaming, including a 3-month trial. So I'll tell you what, we're looking at these on the prices. The Platinum FX costs $249, while the Pro FX comes in at just under $200 at $199. Now, I tell you what, that is pretty good pricing for a brand new controller that is the most up-to-date state-of-the-art tech. $200 is not that much to be paying. What are we looking at there? Around 180 in pounds? I've spent that on a night out. I'm sure most people have spent that on a birthday night out. Like, realistically, that's not too expensive for a brand new controller. If you're looking to learn at a decent level, the sizing of it as well, it looks like it's a decent size to kind of like pick up the techniques and learn from. And in general, it looks like a really cool piece of kit, to be honest with you. I mean, if I didn't already have one, this would be something that I would definitely be tempted into buying. Let me know your opinions in the chat if you haven't actually seen the controllers yet. I'm going to link the article into the chat right now. There we go. The article is going into the chat. Let us know how you're feeling. Have a little look at them. New listeners, please do hit that subscribe button. We are going to be streaming this show, obviously, Monday to Friday, 10 till 11:30 for the time being, during the duration of lockdown. Playing you the freshest music, like that new Bonobo bit, and obviously looking at news as well. There's loads of DJ news floating around. There's loads of music news, and sort of new bits in general. So we're going to be looking into all of those as we move forward. Let's get into this one next then. What should we do? Let's get into this one then from Clarity alongside Dakota 6. This is new from them. It goes by the name of Closer. Really cool tune, this one. Don't go anywhere. We're live on Cubcam TV. It's Brekky in the Cave. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and jump in the chat as well. Let us know how you're feeling this morning. Let's have a conversation. Techie flavours on this one. Nice and smooth, I've got to say. This one coming from Clarity alongside the vocals of Dakota 6.
Touch me like you never touched, hold me like you never held before. Imagine it's the first and last time we ever touch it all. Touch me like you never.
Lovely stuff.
Hold me like you never held before. Imagine it's the first and last time we ever touch it all.
Loving the vibes on that one. As I said before, that one coming from Clarity alongside Dakota 6. Going by the name of Closer. How are we doing this morning? Out to everyone in the chat, out to Abused Plasma. I'm assuming that is man like Rapture4D in the chat, ready to go. As well as that, out to man like Polonus joining us this morning. How are you doing, sir? I hope you are all good. It's been a minute. Out to Misdigest, of course. And out to everyone locking in on the silent listening as well. Please do share the stream across your social media channels. Make sure you're hitting the like button, of course. Let's get as many people in here as possible so we can have an enjoyable conversation. Rapture4D will be on the line in around 10 minutes or so. We're going to look at another bit of news before that, however, as we like to do, we like to keep the news flowing here on the show. After reopening some of its branches back in mid-April, KFC has now unveiled that plans to unlock and reopen 500 of its UK branches by the end of this week have now been launched. So that's by May the 22nd, it's looking like. Confirming the company's plans to reopen 500, Paula McKenzie, I think that's how you pronounce it, general manager at KFC for the UK and Ireland, said 500 restaurants reopening is a huge milestone. It's credit to the hard work of all of our amazing teams in the restaurants that we wanted to celebrate to this moment. Back in March, KFC was one of the many fast food chains to close all branches in the UK following the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic, but it's reopened some last month with a limited menu for delivery only. So to find out if the KFC near you has reopened yet, you can look online. I'm concerned. I would like to think that looking at this, people are going to actually be and it's going to still be takeaway. I would really hope this is still takeaway, because I think it is way too early to be opening up crowded fast food outlets, if I'm being completely honest with you. But everyone has their own opinions on this at the moment, and I don't want to make this show political. If you want to see my political opinions, as I've said before, literally jump over onto my Twitter feed at KXVU, and you'll see exactly how I feel about certain things. There we go then. We're going to look at a couple more bits of news before we jump on the phone with a man like Rapture4D. We've got a couple more bangers to play as well. Let's get into this one then. We've got some brand new Rosca on the way. This one is out Friday alongside Tasty Lopez. This one goes by the name of Static. Smooth, soulful, rolling flavors this morning. You know how we do. We like to switch the flavors up, keep things nice and lively, but also play a few soulful bits, and that's how we will continue to do things here on Brekky In The Cave. We're live, of course, on Cubcam TV. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do. Hit the like button as well. There's loads of good stuff on the way. something about sort of soulful UK funky. Just hits home for me. Nice and minimal. Proper vibers, this one. To Sharon-Rose in the chat as well. Going to be speaking to her a little bit later on. It's going to be a very enjoyable show today, I've got to say. Lovely flavours on this one, coming from Rosca alongside Tasty Lopez. Got that one through from Juno download yesterday. That one is dropping on Friday via Rosca Kicks and Snares. One of, if not the most consistent labels in UK funky right now. And for the last, realistically, last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, if we're being completely honest. But there we go. Let's have a little look at another bit of news this morning. Facebook have revealed plans to build a 37,000 kilometre undersea cable around Africa in an attempt to improve internet access around the continent. The cable will be nearly equal to the circumference of the Earth. Wow, that's a lot. That's a very long cable, my friends. According to Facebook, and will interconnect 23 countries across Africa, the Middle East, and Europe once complete. Africa currently has an estimated 1.3 billion residents, but according to Facebook, it's one of the world's least connected regions. Facebook said in a blog post, "We are committed to bringing more people online to a faster internet, and with 3.5 billion globally currently unconnected, there's still a lot to do." So basically what Facebook want is more people on Facebook. Let's not kid ourselves here. That is all this really is. But if people can benefit by it happening, then it may be a good thing in the long run. For the project, which is named To Africa, the organisation has partnered with numerous global network providers. The cable will be designed so that it can be buried 3 meters deeper than the average in order to help prevent damage. Facebook added, To Africa is being completed as part of our efforts towards an open and inclusive internet ecosystem, which is a vital part of a continent's growing digital economic growth. I said that wrong. The first subsea cable system to seamlessly connect East and West Africa across a single open system to Africa will enable new avenues of communication from coast to coast. Reportedly, the cable will offer 3 times the total network capacity of all the other cables that currently serve Africa, and Facebook states that the current COVID-19 pandemic makes the project much more urgent, and it's estimated that the project will cost $1 billion, just over 826 million in pounds. So there we go. Interesting stuff. Very interesting indeed. This is definitely almost a case of it's clear that Facebook want more access across the world. They want to be on more people's computer screens, they want more people signing up, and they want to be fed more and more data. That's very, very clear about what Facebook want to do here. However, I think in the long run, anyone having access to high-speed internet in general is a positive thing and will actually benefit the continent, being realistic here. So I think it's a double-edged sword, and I think the fact that it's Facebook building it definitely means that there's going to be sort of Facebook rights in place. There's going to be certain things that mean they have first access to data and stuff like that. But it's going to, I think in the long run, it could well be a good thing. So there we go. As I said before, we're going to be jumping on the line with man like Rapture4D in around 5 minutes or so. I'm really looking forward to that. It should be a fantastic chat. We're going to be talking plasma abuse. We're going to be talking grime in Scotland, and we're going to be talking about obviously what the steps that are needed to kind of build a scene where you are, because that's definitely something that all of the gang up in Scotland have been doing over the past few years, and it's really exciting to see. It's something that's been really fun to witness from down here in sunny Brighton, where we've been trying to do the same thing. Out to Eon joining the chat this morning. How are you doing this morning, sir? I hope you're good. I've been loving the daily outfits, I've got to say. Definitely want to be keeping those up and keeping up the Instagram content. That's another thing as well. As we've got quite a busy chat this morning, I'm going to ask, what has everyone found the strangest about lockdown? Like, what's the thing that's actually been the most weird sort of day-to-day thing that you've noticed specifically about your situation? Is it working from home? Is it never putting socks on? Like, what is the weirdest thing that you found about the current scenario? Please do let me know, and we'll get into that conversation in a few minutes. But for now, though, we're going to jump into one more banger before we get on the phone with a man like Rapture4D. This one coming from Jesse Royal, track going by the name of Ooh La La over the Cali Roots Rhythm. Don't go anywhere. We're live on Cubcam TV. New listeners, please do hit that subscribe button. Hit like button on the video as well. We're trying to get to 300 subscribers by the end of the week. That's the target. So we need around, I think it's around 25, 24 more subscribers. So if you are locking in for the first time, hit the subscribe button. Do me a favor. We're streaming live Monday to Friday here on Cubcam TV. So there we go. It's Brekky in the Cave. Don't go anywhere.
The reggae beats so sweet, ooh la la, ooh la la. Happy move my feet, ooh la la, yeah. Positive vibrations, ooh la la, ooh la la. Gathering our nations, ooh la la. Talking to the soul of the people, good over evil, love over everything. When I'm misleaded, the light will shine, will never go out. Priceless, reggae will never be lifeless. The light will shine, will never go out. The reggae beats so sweet, ooh la la.
Sounds of Jesse Royal on this one, Ooh La La. Putting out some amazing music right about now. Out to man like Jabs in the chat as well.
Gathering all nations, ooh la la. Straight from me heart to the depths of your soul. Once the big man a scan like a 6-year-old. To the half of the truth that them never be told. Fresh from Jammer Rock within your sandy gold. Long time, me don't have no nice time. Come make we rejoice like. Can't get toast to good vibes. The reggae beats so sweet, ooh la la, ooh la la. Happy move my feet, ooh la la. Positive vibrations, ooh la la, ooh la la. Gathering all nations, ooh la la. Talking to the soul of the people, good over evil, love over everything. When I'm misleaded, the light will shine, will never go out. Priceless, reggae will never be lifeless. The light will shine, will never go out. The reggae beats so sweet, ooh la la, ooh la la. Happy move my feet, ooh la la. Positive vibrations, ooh la la, ooh la la. Gathering our nations, ooh la la.
Right then, my friends, we are back on Cubcam TV right about now. Out to everyone locked in this morning in the chat and, of course, listening in via the podcast recording. We are joined by our first guest of the day. Rapture4D is on the line. How are you doing this morning, my friend?
Yo, what's good, man? I'm good. I'm having some green tea, so just chilling.
Good stuff, man. Thanks for jumping on the line today. Obviously, we've been talking for a fair few years now, and I thought, now was the right time to kind of get this conversation going. It's one I've wanted to do for a while. So, kind of first of all, how are you doing up the road, essentially?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm working from home at the minute. I do have like a part-time job, so I'm working from home up there, and just really continuing to build, I guess, some music every now and again. As of recently, I've been on a block, so it's came at a bad time because I've not been able really to make much stuff during this lockdown. It's the perfect opportunity to do so, but it came at a bad time, I guess.
I mean, there's other things that obviously are involved in your sort of process, though. As I was saying earlier, everyone seems to have multiple feathers in their caps these days, and obviously we've seen obviously the kind of the growth of plasma abuse, and obviously that sort of more wavier sort of sound, which you've been quite a vital part of in the north, which is quite cool to see. So we're gonna kind of cover everything, which should make for a really, really good conversation. So let's kind of start off then with a bit of background on yourself. Like, how long have you been producing for now?
So I probably started making music seriously from maybe about 2014. Okay. So quite a long time. That's 6 years now. Jesus. Doesn't seem like that long, but yeah, that's how long. But I probably, about 6 years seriously. I started making, it was more dubstep sort of stuff, kind of like the rhythm scene. I don't know if you know, like the sort of that sort of stuff.
Sort of chunkier, more tear out kind of stuff. Essentially.
Yeah. But I did like grime was always something I listened to as well, but it's something I could never make. And then I slowly started to try and make it as I learned more when I was making music. I learned more like production skills and stuff, and then eventually ended up attempting to make grime, and then I think I ended up preferring making grime more than dubstep, and kind of went that way. And now I've kind of explored elsewhere as well, but so yeah, I would say probably grime I've been making since about 2016.
Okay, cool.
Solidly.
So obviously during that sort of period of time then, we've obviously seen the grime scene very much shift into a much more sort of global movement, including sort of getting a bit of a foothold in Scotland, as it were. Like in those sort of earlier days of production, obviously you're one of the people, along with a lot of other people, all of the sort of levels heads who were involved at the time in sort of bringing grime to Scotland on a more sort of ground level, rather than just sort of big name headliners coming up every week. It was more a sort of community-based thing which you guys were involved in. Like, how did that originally come together, that sort of community of producers?
So yeah, a lot of that is owed to Levels Radio and Gallus One. I don't know if I'm sure you know Gallus One, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So basically he started a sort of, it started off as not actually a radio. It started off as just a hub for people that like grime music, I guess. You could go up and do a set. It would stream live on YouTube, but it wasn't a radio as such. There wasn't other people there wasn't slotted time shows and stuff. It was just people coming up, kind of having a laugh really, and just having a mess about. And then people would like show their friends that also like grime and come up, and then it eventually kind of grew into a little small scene. And then from there I kind of decided to start taking it a bit more serious, and decided to make a radio out of it, and we actually managed to get a community of people together to play underground music in Glasgow. Now there's already Sub-City, but I would say that's a bit more techno and a bit more it's not as, I wouldn't say there's many grime shows on there as there was on Levels at one point. Yes.
I mean, it's such an amazing thing to kind of look back on. Now, obviously, one of the things that I always kind of go on about on this show is a sort of it's a real fondness, I'd say, of people and sort of groups of people who kind of come together to create scenes where they're from, which is something that I've always been a massive admirer of. And like, was there a point during that kind of process where you all kind of turned around and went, wow, we've got something here?
Oh yeah, definitely. There was loads of points where we done that, because we started a crew as well. There was the Levels Syndicate we started, and we were getting like quite a lot of shows all of a sudden. Like there was one point we were doing a show every single weekend in Glasgow or Edinburgh, and it was super crazy how fast it all came together. As of now, we've all kind of stopped talking a little bit, but a lot of us still do stay in contact. Obviously this lockdown stuff doesn't help with it all, but yeah.
Of course. I mean, kind of looking at it then, like that kind of community element that a place like Levels Radio brings. I mean, this was an actual building as well, wasn't it? It wasn't like an online thing that people connected to. This was like a hub.
Well, it was actually it went through multiple buildings. It was initially in the West End, and then we moved to the East End, and then we moved again, and we continually moved just through various problems. But I would say the first building was where a lot of the things were solidified. Like that's such a memorable place. I'd love to go back there and just chill, to be honest. The vibes in that room.
I mean, it's even the whole idea of having these kind of like these buildings, these sort of like historic places, these sort of like hubs where communities and kind of and scenes are almost like built from. Like how important do you think that sort of thing is to music culture at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's important. Yeah, there's only so much you can do online, and there's only so much. I don't know. There's only so much camaraderie you can get from speaking to people online, whereas in person it's a whole different ball game. And I think that needs to be a thing that's. I mean, it used to be maintained by like community centres and stuff like that, but with like obviously government funding across the board across the country, that's not such a popular thing anymore. So some people, it has to be a private investment that's made by certain people, which is obviously not the best, but I think they can do wonders for people, especially to get them off a certain road that they might be going on and put them on a sort of straight and narrow path. That
I mean, it's that
something that's more ambitious.
More than anything else, it's that whole idea of the importance of community centres to an extent, and how and not even, and youth centres and things like this, and it gives people a creative outlet, and it gives people stuff to do. Like with that sort of levels movement, like do you guys kind of look back on it, like when you talk on it as what you've created as something that has changed music in Scotland?
Yeah, I'd say it has. Yeah, I'd say it's changed the underground scene here in Scotland for sure. It's gave a lot of people, if anything, it's gave a lot of people confidence in themselves as well. A lot of artists like myself and Polonus and stuff, we owe a lot definitely to Levels. That's what brought us together, and that's what kind of helped to develop us as artists as well. And there's countless other artists across, like I don't know if you know Casey, Chrissy Grimes. Shogun used to come through in the later stages as well. It was just a place that you could get your confidence as well as develop your skills as well.
I mean that whole idea of the sort of the pirate radio station is almost like being the dojo. You know what I mean? It's where it's where kind of DJs and producers, especially in genres like grime, really do sort of hone their skill sets. Like, do you think you'd be on a similar sort of path you're on now if it hadn't been for Levels?
Well, there's a cool story that I sometimes like telling when I was at Levels. So basically, whenever I would go up to Levels, I would go home the next day, and I'd be like, right, I've got to make a bad boy tune so I can go there next week and show off, if you know what I mean. It was like a sort of competition almost, and then they would play their new beats that they've just made, and then you'd be like, right, okay, cool, I've got to go home and make a better one, and you keep going, and it's kind of like a fast track to. It kind of pushes you a bit further and harder. So I would definitely say it was like a catalyst and growing me as an artist to kind of fast forward, stop me from being lazy and stuff like that, because it would force me to do better, if you know what I mean. It would force me to come back every week or every day that I was there. Definitely. With a better tune, with a better instrumental. You know?
Definitely, man. I think that sort of competitive nature is something that is so it's so woven into the fabric of what grime is and what sort of underground music in the UK is. That competitive nature.
Yeah, Lord of the Mics, etc.
Yeah, entirely, and it's such an important, crucial part of the growth of artists. And I think obviously radio stations are obviously a crucial part of that as well. We're going to move the conversation forward a little bit because we have got some bangers to play, and I want to make sure I am playing as much new music as possible here on the show, because otherwise we can end up talking for hours. But I want to make sure there's some good music on the way. So we're going to get into this one first from Gloomy. This one goes by the name of Groves, I believe. Talk to me about this one.
Yeah, so this one was one of our first releases on Plasma Abuse. I believe it was maybe our second or third. And if you don't know Gloomy, you should probably know Gloomy if you're listening. If you don't know Gloomy, he's a boy from Bristol. I don't think he's living there anymore though, but he's a super talented producer, and I would definitely recommend checking him out. He also helps me run the label as well.
Wicked, man. Well, we're going to get into this one now. We're live on Cubcam TV. Rapture4D is on the line. Don't go anywhere, people. New listeners, please do hit that subscribe button and hit like on the video as well. friends. We're live on Cubcam TV. Out to everyone in the chat right about now. We've got a very lively chat going on. Out to man like Jabs in the building. Francis Bull joining us as well. EO, and out to Miss Digest. Out to everyone in the chat. Polo's in there as well, I believe. So we're kind of talking about yourself now. We're going to move into more sort of the projects you're working on specifically. And we're going to be talking, of course, about Plasma Abuse, which is one of the most unique labels currently floating around in the sort of extended areas of underground dance music here in the UK. Like, what was the kind of initial inspiration that made you kind of go, I want to start a label in this sort of area?
So I've always wanted to start a label. That was like, to be honest, when I was making dubstep, I had started a label then as well, and it's always something that's been on my mind, because when you're a DJ, you just, or even your job right now, I would say as well, is a lot of the time you're wanting to showcase people music that you love. Of course. And I think that there was a lot of music that I loved coming from artists that weren't getting the spotlight they deserved. So I think it was always something that was on my mind ever since I got into music in general. And I thought it was a good time to start, just because there were so many producers I was listening to, and there was a certain sound emerging that I couldn't quite describe. So I thought I'll make a label for it and literally put a label on this music. And I also wanted a place for myself to put music out in Polonus. When we initially started the label, it was me and my boy Polo, who's in the chat, and it was a place where I think it kind of went another way than anticipated. It went, instead of being just a sort of grime label, we ended up expanding out into and signing more experimental stuff and kind of broadening the horizons for it. And then from there, I ended up taking the label sort of another way and running it a bit on my own for a while. Okay. And yeah, ever since then, I've been signing stuff that I like. I don't really care if it fits into, oh, this isn't a grime box. But I mean, there's a consistent sound throughout the label, but it's just mainly stuff that I like, really, at this point.
Okay, cool. I mean, this kind of whole process then of setting up like a label, like when you were in that sort of period of transition, what was it about tunes that was kind of really ticking the boxes for you? What were you sort of looking for in new music?
Yeah, so anything I sign up to Plasma Abuse, even still, I think it does need to tick, like, maybe it needs to be quite ambient sounding, and in the sense of like it needs to have some sort of melody in a way. It can't just be like an F bass note on loop for like 10 minutes, if you know what I mean. Like, it needs to have some sort of melody going on with it. I think that's a key part to it. But when I listen to it, I always know, I can always tell like if it fits with the label or not. But okay. I would say other than that, it just needs to have a certain ambience to it, and it needs to be grimy sounding, sort of. So what do you think of the term wave then? So wave, that's the sort of slow trap, ambient trap sort of scene, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I would define it anyway. I think that the term gets thrown out a lot, but I wouldn't say my label would be a wave exclusively. I think it would be wave/grime or grime/wave. A lot of people are calling it square or neo-square, but I don't know, that sort of sound. I think young labels like Young LDN as well, I think they're another label that are pushing that sort of grimy, wavy sound. But I think there needs to be a name for it, really, at this point, because it's definitely created its own little sphere of people as well. Definitely, man. I think that's one of the beautiful things about kind of the kind of growth of electronic music is you get these kind of sort of names, and then you'll get sort of two subgenres that are sort of similar that make up this thing in the middle, and then you end up with projects such as the one you've got now with Plasma Abuse, which it doesn't really fit into any of the current categories, which means a new category needs to be created, and it's an exciting thing. Yeah, it's definitely exciting, yeah. I mean, kind of like looking at the kind of roster now then, like how long has the label been up and running release-wise? So it's been going from about, I think, 2016 or 2017. I should know this, to be honest. Yeah, my memory is awful. I believe it's been going since 2017, though, January. And we've had probably a release every 2 months. So pretty consistent. So pretty consistent from the start then. Yeah, pretty consistent. There was a few breaks in there, but yeah, pretty much been releasing every few months. Wicked, man. So roster wise as well, like who were some of the earlier names that kind of came in? So a lot of the earlier names were, I don't know if you know A-E.
Yeah.
I don't know how you pronounce his name. Is it A-E?
I've always said A-E, but I mean, I may be very, very wrong about that, and I may have insulted him every single time I've said it on air.
Yeah, so we had him on, and we had a few of the boys from Glasgow as well. We had Gallus one on the first compilation. We had another guy called ADY. Usurp as well, who's also from Scotland. We had Proc Fisco on there as well. We've also had Cleaver Hype. So at the beginning it was a lot of Scottish orientated artists that were on there, but then it became more of a sound thing as opposed to a local sort of thing. So I wanted to sign things that I think suited the sound as opposed to signing things more based on locality, if you know what I mean. It became more of an internet label, if that makes sense. It wasn't really such a local label.
Of course.
We also had Confident on there as well. I don't know if you know Confident, the boy from Finland.
I've seen the name, but I did not know he was from Finland, so I don't know that much about him.
Yeah. He was probably our broadest international signing.
I mean, it's sick though as well. I mean, obviously, we're kind of talking now about how the sound's kind of expanded into being a more global thing, but obviously being part of that kind of group of people that built that early sort of grime community in Brighton, to see how many of these producers now kind of, or new producers have kind of come from that early wave who are now on this kind of level of music you want to release. Like, it must be quite a proud feeling for yourself.
Oh yeah, it's extremely proud. It's became its own thing. It sort of grew arms and legs and became its own thing. I was just signing music that I liked, and there is a consistent theme in the artwork as well that I try to push for. Okay. All the time as well. I
mean, kind of looking at it then, it definitely feels like you're in a position of strength as a label now. Like, the notoriety's there, like the sort of core kind of almost cult following's there already as well. And it's almost, we're very much at, like, we're past the kind of birthing of this new sort of era of wavier grime. We'll call it wavier grime or square or anything, any of those terms. Yeah. But we're sort of like past the birth point now. We're at the sort of solidification point. And it's an exciting thing to kind of look at moving forward, because obviously you are one of the labels that really are pushing that sound forward. So it's like the history books are being written as we speak.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. It's an interesting take on it as well, because at the end of the day, for me, it's like I'm just signing music that I think that I've always loved and I've always liked. So it's interesting to see it become something that it wasn't really intended. Like, I didn't do it with the intention of creating my own sort of sound, or creating like a scene or anything like that. It was just a case of me signing music I like, really.
Cool. Well, we're going to jump into another one of these of these bangers that you've sent over to me. I was very, very blessed, by the way. Rapture did send over the full label packet, the full label catalogue, and I looked at it and went, "Wow, this is just hours of entertainment." Thank you. There's perks to doing this show. I've got to say, there are some real perks. But we're going to get into this one. I've seen it mentioned in the chat this morning as well. This one comes from, I believe, is it Glassy or Glacky?
It's well, I don't know. You need to ask him. But I've always called him Glacky. So
Glacky. Let's go with that then. This one is Boost. We're going to get into this one now and then have a conversation about it straight afterwards, and then kind of move on to what's on the way in the future for yourself. So don't go anywhere. New listeners, please do make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Hit like on the video as well. Let's keep the conversation going. Out to Jabs saying, if it weren't for you, man, I wouldn't have even heard about grime in Scotland. So there we go. I think that's one of the points I was kind of getting to earlier about how impactful that sort of early levels movement was. But yeah, let's get into this one. This one is Boost, Man Like Glacky. Don't go anywhere. It's Brekky in the Cave. Right then, friends, we're back inside the building. I'm really, really enjoying this one. Some amazing music being played. Off mic there, I was just talking to Rapture on the line, and we were saying the way I would describe the catalogue for Plasma Abuse is it has a beauty to it, and I think that's pretty much defined by the reactions we're getting in the chat this morning, and of course by the sound itself. It's just a stunning kind of atmospheric, ambient, as we were saying, quite glacial in the way it's kind of put together. Yeah. Icy. That's a very good way to do it. Right, let's talk about the future then, man. Obviously, because you were saying obviously you're on a bit of a block right now, but like, what can we expect from you in the near future?
So I have been working on my album for about a year now, and I'm not really rushing it as well. I've got the artwork and everything ready. I've got maybe 2 or 3 of the songs fully completed, but I'm not really rushing it. But I would say the album should be ready maybe about winter time. Okay. Just because of the delays that have happened. It was meant to be August this year, but the delays, obviously, I need to get artists in the studio. It's gonna have quite a lot of vocals on there as well. Getting artists in the studio isn't the easiest thing at the minute, so of course. Probably been delayed a bit, yeah.
I think, to be honest with you, the entirety of the kind of music industry around the UK is on this almost like get it done if you can, but it's not really an issue if you can't sort of approach with stuff at the minute. So I think it's fair enough. And obviously with an album project from yourself, it definitely isn't something you want to rush.
No, exactly. I've always said that. A lot of people ask me, where's this album that you keep going saying it's going to be out soon? And it's kind of like, I don't know if you know Big H when he said Fire and Smoke, and it just never came out. It just never came out. But I think the reason behind that for me, or at least my biggest excuse, is the fact that I really want it to be something that's perfect. I don't want to just put something out just for the sake of having a debut album, and then because it's always going to be my debut album as well. People will always go back and listen to it, and it could be. I don't want it to be something that's not. I want it to be something that's I've spent a lot of time on, and it's perfect. So definitely. A lot of the tunes I've had to scrap, and a lot of the tunes I've had to restart and stuff. And I'm just going to wait until I think it's the right time to release it. So that's what I've got in the works at the minute. Okay. Other than that, I've just been just focusing on the label a bit more. So yeah.
In regards to the sort of label, then, like, are you still getting submissions piling up in the inbox?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, every day.
It must be. Again, we were saying this off air, but it must be a nice feeling to kind of see how many people are keen to release with Plasma Abuse.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy opening up the inbox and checking out that people not only like the label, but they want to release their own stuff through it. It's crazy going through the inbox because a lot of the tunes I love as well, and a lot of them I'll just play as a DJ as well. So it works both ways for the label and for me to be able to play all this brilliant music exclusively.
I mean, it's an amazing thing, and I think it's definitely something that a lot of people in the UK will be definitely taking their hats off to you for kind of pushing and bringing together. And obviously, there's when you kind of look back over the Rapture history, there are a fair few things that you've kind of been involved in over the years that are quite obviously groundbreaking things, with Plasma Abuse being a very kind of late sort of almost genre I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it, a genre creating label, shall we say. And then we look through obviously the kind of earlier stuff in Scotland, obviously bringing together a scene and being one of the sort of catalyst figures in that. We also look at the Red Bull stuff that you've done over the years. I mean, it's for a lot of people must really look up to you, realistically.
I don't know.
I've caught you with the humble there.
Yeah. I'm not going to do the humble brag, not today. That's fine.
But yeah, I mean that's how I think that's how a lot of people see it, and it's been a genuine pleasure to talk to you this morning, and this interview has been one of my favourite ones to do. So thank you for jumping on the line.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me on. I'm welcome to come on anytime, for sure.
Lovely stuff. Right, we're going to finish up with a tune from Haggy. This one goes by the name of 8-Bit Princess. Talk to me about this one quickly.
Oh, this one's a hidden gem. I don't think this one's been clocked by a lot of people. This is Boy Haggy. He's from Edinburgh. Oh, he's from Edinburgh or Dundee, but he stays in Glasgow now. And he's also a very famous dubstep producer called Akira. But this is his grime alias, and this tune is fucking crazy. This is one of my favourite tunes that's ever been signed to Plasma. So
amazing stuff. What a way to kind of finish up then that this one is. One time, what is the best social media tags to get yourself and Plasma Abuse on? What's the best contact?
I would say probably Twitter. It's Plasma_Abuse, or SoundCloud if you just want to listen to our music. Is soundcloud.com/Plasma Abuse.
Cool.
I'm not that active. I mean, obviously I post the releases on Facebook, but Facebook's one of those things for me where I just struggle with it sometimes. So. Yeah,
it's fair enough, man. It's fair enough. Right then, dude, it's been an absolute pleasure. As per, whenever there are new releases, please do let us know, and we will be very, very keen to play them on the show and show our support, of course. But yeah, have a good rest of the day, dude.
You too, man. See you later, man. See you.
See you in a bit. Right then, we're going to jump into this one from Haggy. This one is 8-Bit Princess, and after that, we're going to be jumping on the line with Sharon-Rose. We're going to be doing a bit of a music lore kind of special, looking through some real do's and don'ts from sort of new artists and how to approach getting contracts and things like that. So it's going to be a really enjoyable conversation. Stick around on the line. We're going to be live for another half an hour or so here on Cubcam TV. New listeners, please do hit the subscribe button. As I said before, we stream live here Monday to Friday, 10 till 11:30, until 12 on Fridays as well. So don't go anywhere. Brekky in the Cave. Right then, friends, we are back on Cubcam TV. It's Brekky in the Cave, and we're moving into our second guest of the day. We have the wonderful Sharon-Rose on the line. How are you doing this morning?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. This is one I'm really excited to do. Obviously, on the show, we're trying to kind of really variate the guests we're having on and kind of cover a load of different topics as we go. Obviously, we've been doing quite a lot of stuff that's kind of designed to kind of help artists improve themselves and things that artists can be looking into, obviously, during this unusual period we find ourselves in. We're going to look through kind of like your journey as both a kind of radio presenter in that sort of more sort of grimy sphere, and then kind of moving from that into what you're up to now, which is obviously working a lot more with music lore and the kind of process that you've gone through kind of getting into that position and how that position can now actually help other people. So let's start off here with a little bit of background on yourself. So how long have you kind of been working in and around the music world, shall we say?
Well, I'd say a couple of years quite seriously. I've been producing music since I was really young, so back at school. Always had a love for instruments and, you know, making music, recording myself, writing songs. So I've always loved music and making music. But I think probably a few years ago, I tried to really start to improve my sound, bought better software and started to get my music mastered properly and started to collab with other artists. And I think then is when I started to get played on radio. After years of trying, by the way, it's taken me years to try and get on radio. So I kind of am quite multi-genre. So I've made sort of house tracks and some funky house tracks in the past, as well as hip hop, and grime is at the moment probably what I'm more known for. But I've been working on music for years, but the last couple of years I think is when my music's been heard sort of on various radio stations, which then led to me being offered a radio station, sort of being a radio DJ myself on a radio show, which I share with DJ BPM on Resonance FM. So it's been quite a quick journey over the last couple of years, but a fun one.
Wicked, man. I mean, it sounds quite cool. It's very cool to hear. Kind of that sort of early process, because I'm already getting the feeling from you quite early on that you're someone that likes to explore a lot of different areas of what you're doing. Like, you're not on a singular path. There's always like tangents and stuff you find yourself going down.
Definitely. I mean, I probably started as a singer-songwriter, and I've tried to move into a lot more production at the moment, trying to feature a lot of artists on my tracks that I produce. So that's been quite fun as well, and I've really enjoyed collaborating. I think it's been one of the best things I've ever done. Is just working with other MCs, other rappers. It's really brought my music to life, and it's great to sort of share that process with them and see what we can create. So really enjoyed that.
Wicked, man. I mean, so just kind of going back a little bit further then, what do you remember? What was the kind of first thing that drew you kind of towards being a musician in general? Like, was there family influences, or was it just sort of circumstantial?
Yeah, probably my brother is also a DJ, and he's always played music around the house. We've always loved listening to new music. Like, I'm actually quite addicted to finding fresh music. So that could be any genre really, but like I love R&B, hip hop, grime. I do even like sort of house and dance electronic music. So I've always been into like learning, new sounds and exploring different sounds. I think from maybe before I was 10 years old. And I think that's just grown into me over the years. So throughout, studying, working, I've always loved listening to music and tried to test, being a producer myself, trying to make, quite unique songs and unique sort of drum patterns or bass lines, that kind of thing. So I've just been experimenting with music all my life, really.
That's sick,
so that's basically how I've sort of started. My brother being a DJ, also now doing production as well, is kind of I think he's probably influenced me quite a bit as well. But I actually started producing before he did.
Oh wow! Do you find there's a bit of a competitive nature going on there?
No, he's definitely more into the live side of the entertainment industry and events. He runs a brand called Love Juice, and they throw loads of parties around sort of London, some international parties as well. But we're quite different in what we do, and slightly different genres as well. But I think I definitely love to support what he's doing, and in fact he's doing a side of sort of the music industry that I'm not really involved in too much in terms of the live events. But again, that's a great side of music which I love, and I love to support anyone that's out there performing live. I know that there's not as many events at the moment due to coronavirus, but I'm still watching all the live streams, as many as I can, and I'm still trying to find out artists that are hot, and people send me music all the time, so it's great for me to still be involved in everything. But I'm more sort of at the moment more doing my radio show and just producing music in the background. And as you say, then I've got this whole side of me which is a music lawyer as well, which kind of then takes up a lot of my time. So I'm balancing a lot of things, as well as also sort of running an independent record label as well. So I'm kind of like someone that does about 4 different things at once.
I mean, that's sick. It's sick to hear. And the thing is, I get like excitement out of that, because I can imagine you're kind of always kind of like jumping between different projects. No 2 days are the same, I would presume.
Definitely. It's crazy, but I really enjoy it. And I think because I knew I had this passion for music, I actually trained and mostly did corporate law. I moved into music law just this year, actually. But I just had this feeling that I know so many people in music. I'm involved in music so much myself. I'm building this label. I have so many contacts. I'm on the radio. I need to be involved in the industry somehow. So I decided to sort of transition from a corporate lawyer. So I've always kind of worked with contracts anyway, but just focusing on the entertainment industry. And I think it's been one of the best moves I've made. I kind of wish I made that move sooner, but I think it's been a process and a journey to get here. And I think the timing is quite right. So I'm glad it's kind of worked out this way, because I feel like I can get quite into music law maybe a bit quicker than perhaps it would have taken me if I was starting from scratch. But yeah, I've still got so much to learn, but I do really enjoy it.
It's exciting. Like, I want to kind of cover all of these different projects as much as we can in this sort of half an hour talk through. So let's kind of let's look at the label side of things first. So this is actually news to me. So run me through the kind of process of setting it up. Like, what's it called? Like how everything works.
Yeah, so I was just releasing music independently. I'm sort of, I've got a distribution. Well, I just signed up to AWAL, so kind of they just released my music for me, and I just felt like I wanted to set up a label rather than just release the music myself. Most people can sign up to a distributor and release music, but I wanted to formalize it into a company, because so many costs are involved in producing, paying for producers, studio fees, all that kind of stuff. Even though I produce myself, so my costs are sort of reduced quite significantly. There are still a lot of costs involved, photographers, videos, all that kind of stuff. So I decided to set up a limited company and release my music via that company rather than me as an individual. Okay. So it was a lot for sort of accounting purposes as well. I just kind of wanted to keep track of my spending, and I wanted to assign the interests, the rights in my music to the company itself rather than just me holding on to it. So yeah, I just wanted to structure myself a bit more sort of officially, which a lot of artists are doing. There aren't many that do it that way, but it for accounting purposes, it can be really helpful to kind of separate your personal accounts to your business accounts.
Yeah, of course.
And just trying to sort of keep track of where things are and
especially I feel when you're someone like yourself who does have so many different avenues all coming in. What would be your first sort of like tip to someone just kind of like for staying on top of stuff like finance? Like how do you manage to stay on top of everything?
It is quite tough, to be fair. I'm quite old school, and I probably should be a lot better. But it is really important to if you do feel like you've got loads of spending. I know that a lot of people keep some sort of Excel spreadsheets, keep all of your receipts, all of your emails and invoices where you've had costs, potentially sort of save them into folders each month. I've got an accountant, so it's really important to find an accountant, especially ones that specialise in music, royalties, revenue, that can sort of help you do your accounts every year and maybe give you some advice on how you can be a bit more structured with your spending, because the last thing you want is that months before your accounts are due is to try and find all of your receipts, printing off your bank statements and trying to work out what you've spent and where all your money's gone and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, really important to get an accountant. I'd say an accountant and a lawyer as well, if possible, straight, at an early stage of your career, because these are people that can help you keep on top of everything you're doing. So.
Definitely, man. I mean, it's really interesting to hear. Just kind of like going back to the label then, like when you're kind of talking through this process, are you primarily releasing sort of your own stuff just on this, or are you releasing other artists as well? Because you spoke a lot about collaborations earlier.
Yeah, it's mostly been my stuff and features I've done with other artists, but I think my next release will be with an artist called Defiant, which I think you might have worked with as well.
Yeah, we have worked with Defiant. Yeah, we put an EP out recently.
Yeah, he's a great artist. So I've been sitting on one of his tracks for over a year now, but which we've been sort of replaying and mixing and mastering. And that'll be the first release that I'm not technically. I won't be classed as an artist on that track, so it'll be him featuring some other artists. So that'll be really exciting. So that'll be the first one where I won't be the primary artist, and I hope to do a bit more of that. I think it's funny because even though I'm a lawyer, I'm also playing a bit of an A&R role sometimes. I'm always like trying to spot new talent and see if there's anyone in particular I can sign, and I do try and push a lot of producers as well, and because I know so many MCs and artists and singers as well, I'm trying to see if I can get them to collaborate and maybe combine their talents and make a track. So that's something I definitely want to get into in the future, but because of sort of work as well, I'm very patient with it. I think I've rushed a lot of releases in the past, and I've actually realised it's really important I know it's important to release music as much as you can. I do encourage that, but I think you need to have a plan as well, and really think about what you're trying to do and really make sure you spend a lot of time making the best music you can. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
Okay, cool. Like, so kind of moving this conversation forward then, because as I was saying, there's like so much to kind of fit into this kind of half an hour chunk, and I'm trying to get like as much information out of this one as possible, because I think there is a lot of information to kind of be had here. Kind of then moving forward to the more sort of radio side of things then. Like, first, how did the show firstly come about?
So it's a show on Resonance FM. DJ BPM has been leading the show maybe for about 5 years. It might even be longer than that. She plays a lot of sub-low, hardcore grime. Absolutely love it. And she heard some of my productions and she just quite randomly offered me the opportunity to share her show with her every other week. And they're on the FM dial, so I was like quite impressed by it. I mean, I used to kind of play around with mixing on decks when I was younger, again because my brother was a DJ, but it's not something I've done quite often, especially out and about. So she did take a massive leap of faith in me, and I've literally just ran with it over the last year, just playing a lot of grime. I do play UK garage as well, and a bit of funky house, and sometimes drill, because this thing for me is a lot of grime artists, they do experiment as well. Like me, they might have a drill track one week, the next month they might do grime, and then they might do a bit of garage. So I try to support artists as much as I can, but it is primarily a grime show. It's called Grime for the Unconverted. So we also play a lot of grime classics as well, so there'll be instrumentals as well as vocal tracks. So that's basically what our show's about, just trying to promote as much grime as we can. But I'm a bit new school with it as well, is that I'm kind of, if the sound is moving, I kind of move with it.
Okay.
I'm not afraid to do that. Yeah, we got as much creativity as we want to do that. So that's been really great, and that's helped me connect with a lot of artists as well. I was
going to say, obviously, because now you're in a position where you're kind of combining this thing of having this label kind of imprint ready to run. You've now got, obviously, the radio show running. You're seemingly now quite confident in the music you're making as well. It must be, and obviously, I'm getting the impression here, as you said earlier, you like to be someone who links these sort of things up. Like, do you feel you're kind of developing a bit of a web at this point?
I hope I can say I've done that eventually. That's definitely my goal. I think I do want to be someone that people, look to as a go-to person in music, whether it's legal, whether it's radio. I want people to look at me and think, that's someone I need to go to. I've just been offered this record deal, or publishing deal, or management deal. I don't know anyone that's a music lawyer, but I've heard of this girl, Sharon-Rose, is on radio. She's a producer. I want to come to her, because not only can I talk to people as a lawyer, but I am an artist myself, so I kind of can understand,
of course, yeah,
what they want out of a deal, and I can encourage them to try and get the best deal they want. I can speak to them in their own language, and also kind of, then put my professional hat on and make the deal happen. So I do want to be known for that, definitely.
Sick.
So yeah, there's definitely a lot of roles I'm playing, and I need to obviously know where my boundaries lie. But I do think that that's definitely something I want to do, for sure.
Sick. I mean, it's really, really exciting to hear about how everything does kind of tie together, and I think that's something that actually a lot of kind of music figures struggle with to begin with, when they're kind of doing these things of, oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this, but none of them really are relevant to each other. None of the outlets are relevant. But with yourself, obviously, you're in a position where everything kind of ties in together quite nicely into this brand of Sharon-Rose, essentially, which works really, really well. Like, is the, just as kind of going back to the beginning here, did you always kind of want to have like something big, being bigger than a musician in a way, something a little bit that covered more?
I think over the last year I started to realise that. It sounds really weird, but I started to realise, I think that my passion for music is a lot more than me as an artist, and I kind of made that decision that I wanted to then make a career out of it. Maybe, yeah, definitely see myself as somebody that wants to be in music for the long run. And I've made a decision that even if that means I'm not an artist myself, I'll be quite comfortable with that, because I think I want to be here for the long haul. I want to help out the next generation of artists that are being offered some of the biggest entertainment deals, or even at the early stages of their career. I want to offer guidance. I want to help them, and I think that being in this position now, I think it will set me up to do that for the future. So definitely, I do think it's beyond me as a musician, for sure. I can see that. I can definitely see that.
Wicked, man. I mean, let's kind of carry on then on this kind of journey. We've covered the label, we've kind of covered your sort of introduction, we've covered the radio show. I'm just trying to make sure we get as many of these things in as possible. So kind of moving forward then, obviously the kind of thing that got me very interested in this interview to begin with, before I then found out about all these other things that you're involved in, was the fact that you've now kind of you have now officially moved into being working in music law as a profession. Like, just going back to the sort of beginning, like you were saying you've always kind of worked with sort of contract law. Like, has that always been the kind of more the sort of more day job side of things?
Yeah, I started in banking initially and then moved into corporate law. So I studied law at uni. Always wanted to be a lawyer, but I took a bit of time with it. And became a corporate lawyer. So I'm used to working with transactions, usually buying or selling companies or helping companies gain investment.
Okay.
But I then realised I wanted to work on deals solely within the entertainment industry. And there's not that many firms that do it, so it's a very competitive area to be in. But as you say, because of all the different things I was doing in music, I thought it might make sense for me to move into that area. So I've always got my corporate skills, there, and I can help with entertainment deals, maybe, big entertainment companies that are buying and selling. But I'm more now working for artists or labels that are offered, record deals, publishing deals, management deals, that kind of thing. So that's where I am now.
Okay, cool.
So that's my final hat.
There we go. So kind of looking at this then, like in regards to the kind of switchover, were there any additional sort of bits of kind of training and stuff that you had to kind of undergo before you were able to kind of officially transfer over?
I was fortunate enough that I could just start. So I'd already done all my qualifications to be a lawyer. I'm literally just pretty much learning on the job, if you will. But because I had already had the contract law experience, I understand the principles of, what needs to be in a contract, but it's now a slightly different contract that I'm working on. And I'm learning constantly the ins and outs of various types of, record deals,
of course,
publishing deals. But yeah, learning on the job. But, I work with a great team of people that support me and supervise me. But it's something that I've actually been able to transition into quite well, I think, because I've always been quite clued up on music and I've always tried to learn about it myself. And I constantly read books about it, articles, all that kind of stuff. So it has been helpful. But yeah, definitely still a lot to learn as I go through. But it's been good so far.
Sick, man. Like, I mean, kind of in this sort of initial kind of period of sort of transition, then we'll call it, like what's been the kind of most unusual sort of law that you've seen pop up that you didn't realise was?
Within music?
Within I'd say within music.
To be honest, I think what might be helpful is there's been a lot of things I've identified that maybe some artists, musicians wouldn't have really known about music deals, and maybe it'll be helpful to give some general tips now, if that helps, because these are really complicated documents, and I must give a disclaimer here that this is just me giving some general tips.
Yeah, of course.
Giving legal advice and, always speak to a lawyer. But there are some really unique things that you'll see in some of these record deals or publishing deals. And it's really important to speak to a lawyer firsthand, because if you hire me to act for you as an artist or as a label, I'm going to look at the document with a different lens, if you will. So there's little tricks that I can do to make it better for you as a label or as an artist. So you want to make sure that you're hiring your lawyer that's going to protect your interests, which is what I'm there to do. And one thing I've learned is that, you should always be asking for a label, distributor or publisher to contribute towards your legal fees, especially if you're a new artist. A lot of artists are scared to hire lawyers. They think it's going to cost too much money. They think they're going to be charged by the hour, so they don't even bother. And then they go and sign some crazy deals. So it's really important for me to say, before you even sign a deal, speak to a lawyer. You can speak to them for free. They will not charge you. Good ones shouldn't anyway. And try and push for your label or distributor to pay towards your legal fees. So that's a really important point. And another thing that I've really understood as I've started this is that when you are being offered a deal, you need to understand what rights you have and what you're giving away. So if it's a record deal, for any song, there are two types of copyrights that are really important here. So you will own the copyright to the sound recording itself, so the finished master, but also there's separate copyright interests in the lyrics and the instrumental behind the track. So you want to make sure that if you're signing a record deal, you're only handing over your copyright interests in the recording itself, not the lyrics, not the beat. So you need to sort of separate those interests, because the rights to the composition are for the publisher, or if you haven't got a publishing deal, you keep them yourself and you earn the publishing income. You have the right to collect the publishing income via PPL, PRS, and international equivalents. So it's really important to understand, the two types of copyright before you go and sign off too many rights that you don't need to.
Of course. I mean, just to interject here, like, there's obviously a bit of that I've found this with artists a lot of the time as well. There is a bit of almost like I wouldn't say a fear, but there's a bit of like a kind of an uneasy feeling as soon as sort of law and contracts and all these sort of things start bubbling up in the conversation when they're speaking to labels. I've often found with artists at that point they start going, I don't know what to do, and start stuttering, and then start not really thinking straight because they start getting worried about what they could potentially be signing. I think what I was going to ask is, like, should contracts be scary to look at?
I don't think they should be, but they are just drafted in a way that's very technical and they're very long-winded, and you definitely need somebody that specialises in a music type of contract to look at it for you and discuss it with you and run it through run through the terms with you.
Definitely.
Because you could end up not realising that there are certain things in there that just are not in your favour. And if you just focus on the headline figures of, I've been offered this advance, I've been offered this royalty, you could get carried away and not understand how it works, not understand that you need to recoup your advance before you actually earn a royalty.
Yeah.
So that's a really important point. So you need to discuss whether these figures actually match the products that the label wants you to even provide. If it's a single deal, an EP deal, or an album deal, or even more than that, does the advance you've been offered make sense? Will the label cover your recording costs? There's all these kind of things that some people just don't really think about because they just think, I'm getting this advance.
Definitely.
I'm going to sign.
It's almost like, to an extent, it's almost like being offered that kind of like, here's the golden ticket, but you don't know this massive path you kind of have to walk down and all these other things you'll be tied into. But here's the money, here's the golden ticket, and I think that's definitely something that from our end, especially on the more sort of label side, that's definitely something we've always kind of advised people to be very kind of on it with. Always make sure a deal makes sense both ways, because I've always found when kind of looking through this sort of scenario, if a deal doesn't make sense one way, there's usually some reason why it doesn't make sense one way.
Of course. And I think depending on what you're giving the label and how long for, I think that should then affect some of the other things that you should be asking for, how much investment you should be getting, depending on what they want from you. So it definitely it's kind of a two-way battle sometimes, and these negotiations can get quite tough. But everybody needs to make sure that this, as much as you can, you're balancing out everybody's interests. So that's why it's always really important to speak to a lawyer to make sure that they can help you get the best out of the deal, if it even makes sense. Maybe you don't even want to sign the deal after you've read it, and you can't change some of the terms, which does also happen. Artists do walk away from some of these deals, some big deals as well. So remember that you have the right to do that as well.
That's another thing that I feel people are often quite scared of, going like, I'm going to blow this opportunity. And realistically, if you're in a position, I found this, if you're in a position where a contract of that kind of, that's looking that lucrative towards what you want to do, if that's being offered to you somewhere, the odds are it will be offered to you by someone else again. It's not a thing of like, not that first kind of contract you see isn't the be all and end all.
Yeah, and actually maybe you might want to start small and then work your way up to a bigger deal. I know there are a lot of big distributors out there that are giving some good advances on distribution deals. Maybe you might not necessarily need a record deal to start with a distributor and then move to a record deal and then get a publishing deal. Think about whether you need a manager. They'll commission all of your earnings. So do you actually want that, or do you think it'll be beneficial? So, there's definitely a lot of things to think about. And without a lawyer, you can get really stuck with all of these different issues and things to consider. So
definitely.
It can be really important.
I think another side of this as well is, we kind of glossed over this quite briefly, but I wanted to kind of go back to this. Obviously, there's the sort of terminology used in contract law, and there's a very kind of, it is almost like a different language to an extent. There's so many things that may mean something completely different to what you assume they mean. Just to kind of get your advice on this, if that's okay, I would kind of like to know, in regards to recommending always going through a lawyer. I'm assuming that kind of covers that thing of just so someone can translate it for you at the very least.
At the very least, I mean, just to walk you through the terms, just to make you understand. In fact, to understand what you want as well. One example I can give is an artist emailed me a contract. He only wanted a manager, and he was offered, a multi-album deal. It wasn't the type of contract he even thought he'd be getting. So, I spend time understanding what you want, and then sometimes you might have to change the whole contract to reflect what the deal should be. But yes, definitely to talk through the terms, talk about your rights. We sort of danced around copyright interests and, royalties, and whether you want some creative approvals, looking at the term of the contract. This is a really important thing as well, because there's not only the contract itself, which has a term. So, for example, you might have a 2-year term for, to deliver 2 EPs, but then there's the rights period as well. So how long will the label own the recording? Will it be for life? Are you licensing it for a short period, maybe 5 years? So you have to understand those two different time periods and whether you want the rights to come back to you or not. And that's something that people just may not know And I guess why would you, unless you've studied this or you've watched as many YouTube tutorials as you can, or somebody's advised you on it. There's a lot in these deals that is very, very technical. Literally, it's a line-by-line exercise of going through it sentence by sentence, and sometimes over and over again, to make sure that you are getting the best out of the deal for your clients. Like, it can be very, very technical. Even I have to read through these things over and over again and research around it as well. So
I mean, it's really interesting. I've got to say, we've nearly run out of time on this, but this has been a really interesting. I've been really enjoying it. There's been knowledge bombs dropping all over the place, and I'm sure a lot of artists will be able to listen through this conversation and actually kind of reassess kind of their position kind of with legalities and how they're kind of approaching the more sort of the more sort of behind the scenes kind of essentially legal approach to what they're doing.
Yes.
In regards to kind of like what else you currently have moving forward, I want to make sure we kind of wrap up and still finish on what's on the way for you. So let's talk about the future for Sharon-Rose. What's on the way? What's the next project on the way?
Yes, so we've got a track called Dragon Slayer with Defiant featuring Tints and Roller, which will come out probably in a few months. We're kind of just waiting for the lockdown to sort of die down a bit, but we've kind of worked on the track, and I think I'm gonna begin producing again soon, and working on some other collabs as well. I'm a huge fan of SBK. I've worked on with SBK, but yeah, I guess I'm just on the lookout as well, just looking out people that may need production or need my advice perhaps as a lawyer, just playing it cool, and also just developing my radio show, trying to make that show as fun as it can be. And I'm actually loving UK Garage at the moment as well, so I'm on the sort of hunt for fresh UK Garage and garage producers. So yeah, I think.
Oh, I've lost you there. Let's do a little ring back here, because I want to make sure we actually get the most out of this conversation. Let's do one more ring back. Hopefully we'll be able to reconnect. There we go. We're all good. We're back on the line. Just to kind of crack on, you were talking about UK Garage.
Yeah. So falling in love with fresh UK Garage. So I'm trying to promote that as much as I can. I just find that a lot of DJs play old school garage, and the sound is not being allowed to develop as much as it should. So I'm trying to push some of the fresher garage that's out at the moment. But yeah, just trying to make my show as good as it can be, and just promoting artists. Again, that's something I'm really passionate about, just promoting music. And whether that's me working with an artist as a musician or as a lawyer, whatever works for people, and just helping the scene move. That's what I'm about. And protecting people's rights within the scene, and just trying to kind of give them some knowledge and understanding.
Wicked, man. I mean, this has been a fantastic conversation, and I really do hope people are kind of able to kind of gauge and grasp things from this. We have run out of time, so we're gonna finish up there. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the line. Thank you for doing this. I know it was quite like a thing of you wanted to make sure that you weren't kind of stepping on any toes or anything like that, or doing anything that was kind of like not the proper way to do things. So I do appreciate you coming on and getting the time together to kind of like put things on properly.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, and I hope it's been useful. And if anyone wants to contact me, I'm at Sharon-Rose _ on all socials. So just drop me a DM and I can help if needed.
Amazing stuff. Right, then we're going to finish up the show there, guys. Thank you for watching. We have been live on youtube.com/CubCamTV. It's been Brekky in the Cave. I'll be back same time tomorrow morning. That's 10 till 11:30 in the AM, and we'll see you then. Goodbye, my friends. Goodbye.